last week we started the 14th chapter and we did up to verse 8. Before we went into the verses, we discussed what are those three modes of nature, how do they act, and we went through two examples. One is how we perceive things and how we react to things. That's how the modes of nature affect us. We might be looking at the same thing, but the perception might be completely different. Our reaction to it might be completely different, depending on which mode we are in. Okay, so the summary of the chapter was titled as acronym was TRAP. Initially, Krishna will start talking about those three modes, and then they all are fighting amongst each other all the time. And then we talk about the actions, and then what does a transcendental person do, and how does he or she overcome the effect of these modes? And I think I shared that slide with you, which is regarding the 14th modes of nature, right? We talked about that. Okay, I can't find the slide, but yes, so we saw that how it was divided into how the chapter had many sections where the modes of nature are different things about them, the binding force, the symptoms, what happens at the time of death, so forth. These things were discussed. I'm trying to still find that slide. Okay, my computer is not working with me today. Okay, so let's move on. We'll move on then. I can't find that. But let's go to the next verses. Anything that anyone remembers from this chapter, the first eight verses, anything that stood out for you? Anything that you remembered from the last discussion?
Prabhuji, what I remember from the discussion was that how Maya acts through these three modes on our mind. And you also mentioned about the two phases, the two activities basically that governs the Maya. One was Prakshepatmika and Avranatmika, right? The covering and the pulling down. So how the Maya covers the real knowledge, and as a result of this, the conditioned soul, right? He's satisfied in whichever condition he is, whether he's in a distressed or happy condition, he's very satisfied. And you gave the example of hog, right? How he eats the stool, and still he's very satisfied and happy in that abominable life, right? And then the Prakshepatmika is the pulling down, right? How Maya keeps checking on us that we are ready, that we are 100% ready, and we really want Krishna. So it keeps pulling us down, it keeps testing us. And then I think you also discussed about definitely the three modes, right? The passion, ignorance, and goodness, and how these modes affect us, how they shape our perception and the response towards the material world, how these modes bind us. And then you also discussed about the how the when we are in a mode of passion, that is rajas, we are interactive without much thought through it. But when we are in a mode of ignorance, that is tamas guna, then neither our action not reflect, not neither our action nor our not we reflect on those actions. And in the mode of goodness, how we are more receptive and we reflect on our actions. And then and you also mentioned if about how these modes define us, How are we governed by these modes? They depend upon the choices that we make on a regular basis and the association that we have. And I think so. These are some points that I remember, Prabhu.
Thank you. Yeah, that covers most of it. Yes, that's what we discussed. And this was the slide that I shared also. So 6 to 8, the binding forces, right? So what is the person in each of these modes? What is he or she feeling satisfaction in or feeling attached to? And goodness, people can feel attached to happiness, such as knowledge, superiority. In passion, they can feel attached to creative activities, and ignorance, they are very attached to laziness, sleep. And so we'll continue on that in the next one. And now we'll see that Krishna talks about what are the symptoms, and then what happens to those people when they die in different modes, and then what are the results of action when they're done in these different modes. This is what Krishna is going to cover in this chapter. And then 15th, we have talked about it. The 13th chapter had the Bij Vakya, 1322, that tells that how modes are the responsible. 14th talk of the 15th brings out the tree of this whole from the beach, from the seed a tree has formed. 16th is the extremes of those trees. The 16 is the extreme of the trees, and 17 is in the middle. So that's the way Krishna has built up the remaining sections of Bhagavad Gita. So we'll now get on to the following verses after this. We'll start with the 9th verse. This is the 9th, this is the 8th verse. So we ended at that how Krishna said, yes, he was talking about the mode. This was the mode of ignorance. And let's see what was the 9th verse. O son of Bharata, the mode of goodness conditions one to happiness, passion conditions one to fruitive action, and ignorance, covering one's knowledge, binds one to madness. Right? So the interesting word which I've highlighted, Prabhupada says, is that the person is satisfied. So if you become satisfied, if you become complacent in bhakti, growth is not going to happen. We always have to be inquisitive, introspective, and always trying to be out of our comfort zone. Try to be in a stretch zone, not in the panic zone, but just comfort and then stretch and then panic. So be in somewhere in the stretch zone. Otherwise, satisfaction can seep into us, and we'll say, "Oh no, I'm okay here. I'm doing my little bit bhakti," and then there's a very high chance that we might fall down. Unless there is growth is not happening, we will stagnate and eventually we'll start plummeting downwards. So Prabhupada uses the word satisfied. So that person is satisfied in this, in the mode of goodness. What mode of goodness is offering to that person, right? So the verse is saying, Sattvam Sukhe. So in Sattva, one is bound to Sukha. Raja Karma. In Raja, passion, there is karma. Tamas, where is that? Jnanam avritya tu tamha. That is the loss of knowledge. Knowledge is covered. So these are the defining characteristics of each of these modes, right? So this topic started in verse 5, and this is a summary highlighting the essence of all those three that have been discussed earlier. Okay, so in illusion, you see the covering one's knowledge. So this is a very nice way of taking away freedom, because there is an illusion of freedom. Oh, I can do whatever I want. Right? So for example, all these modes, they bind us by some sort of promise. For example, laziness, promises of, oh, we don't have to work. So that's a promise that laziness is offering us. So there is some illusion that's making us feel that, oh, we are happy in this position. So there is, all these modes bind us by giving us a promise. Yes. When these sense objects, when they offer some promise to us, there's also effort is needed. Right? For example, passion, people work very hard in passion thinking that we will get pleasure. In ignorance, we have the promise of avoiding trouble. Right? In goodness, promises of getting a positive way of lifestyle. That is pleasurable, right? Uh, so one in good, who's in goodness, he feels happy. Oh, I know more than others. I look good than others, and so forth. It is good to not living sinfully, but one is not able to elevate themselves from this material existence. So then in passion, it's karma, right? So karma means one wants more and more. And what is that? So there is uh, the verse that Krishna is using here. So yeah, there is a desire for what we have. Oh, sorry, anxiety to protect what we have, and a desire for what we want. So that's mostly the indicators of passion, and both of those cause binding to the karma. And then here Prabhupada is translated the word, where is that? Pramade as madness. So madness doesn't necessarily mean that the person is like in a mental asylum or something. Right? It means that a person who is terribly in distress because of acting in self-destructive ways. Right? Some people are, they inflict pain on themselves to forget their sufferings, right? Or they sometimes feel relief by that because of the intensity of the pain. And so for this, some very such kind of ignorant things that to do. So that's what Krishna is summarizing about all three of them in this verse. 10. Sometimes the mode of goodness becomes prominent. Now from 10 to 13 is the section where all these three modes are fighting with each other. So 10 to 13 was that section. So it was the race for prominence, trap, right? So R was race for prominence. So sometimes the mode of goodness becomes prominent, defeating the modes of passion and ignorance, O son of Bharata. Sometimes the mode of passion defeats goodness and ignorance, and at the other times, ignorance defeats goodness and passion. In this way, there is always competition for supremacy. Okay, always competition for supremacy. So giving us how there is a competition between the modes, and we always feel unsteady, right? That sometimes I feel happy, sometimes I'm lazy, sometimes I'm passionate. So we feel that unsteadiness in him. So these three modes are they're not static in how they influence. Neither they are very discrete. You'll not be able to identify which mode I am in so easily unless we have done a good amount of our spiritual practice and controlled our mind and been able to calm it down. Till then, we're not able to understand how these three don't affect us. Right. On the other hand, the spiritual life that we're practicing, it gives us relaxation through purification. Okay. So indecision is a sign of ignorance. Right. Sometimes it might look like, oh, uh, indecision is some people might, oh, it's thoughtfulness. No, it's different from thoughtfulness. Thoughtfulness means it's giving reasoning to mature, whereas indecision is just dragging our feet. We don't want to take a decision. So that's ignorance. Now, goodness is contemplative and active. Right? Whereas passion, when we come to passion, it's not, passion is only active. There is no contemplation. And in ignorance, there is neither contemplation nor action. Right? So we have to consistently choose goodness. Right? We overcome lower modes with higher modes. We read this in the second chapter. Vishaya vinivartante niraharasya dehina raso varjam rasvapyasya param drishtva nivartate. So Krishna said, forget the lower modes by selecting something which has a higher value, higher taste. Right? Uh, so we have to experience a higher taste. Then it comes into. Then we are able to constantly put ourselves in the mode of goodness. Right? And then how not to get pulled around by modes? It is by strengthening both our defense and offense. Defense is praying to Krishna. we try our best to be fully dependent on Krishna. And offense is by being observant of the mind. We are so deeply connected to our mind that we feel that is me. Effect of modes is my nature. So we have to have a schedule in which we are logged into so that these modes cannot affect. So there has to be defense as well as an offense. Right? So best defense is a good offense. And if you see modes philosophically, we only have kind of two modes, right? Distraction or discipline. We can either be distracted or we can be disciplined. Right? Sometimes distraction looks very attractive because uh, I can avoid facing responsibility. Right? I can take refuge in things that are not very relevant to me. I can get carried away by them. However, there is no happiness in there. Shastra says discipline is the path to go forward. Yeah. So Prabhupada is saying, although there are these three modes of material nature, if one is determined, he can be blessed by the mode of goodness. And by transcending the mode of goodness, he can be situated in pure goodness, which is called Vasudev state. The state in which one can understand the science of God. So Prabhupada is highlighting an important part here, determination. We read this in Nectar of Instruction, the second verse. Utsaha nishcha dhairya tat tat karma pravartana. Utsaha nishcha, determination. So, and that's what differentiates a strong person from a weak person, determination. So, and Bhagavad Gita is teaching us that determination can be attained by two ways. One is by deliberation. Right? We constantly deliberate on what is wrong, what is right, what to do, what not to do. Right? We deliberate what our true values are. What would we be like to be remembered as at the end of our life? What would I want to be thinking when I'm leaving my body? Am I going to be morose that I didn't use my life properly? So deliberate upon that, right? We take that introspection. We become introspective and we deliberate deeply, and then from within, Krishna offers us that torchlight that shows us our deepest values. We are all thirsting for love, to love and to be loved, right? And this thirst does not come from um, hormones. It does not come from the neurons or anywhere of those, uh, but it comes from our innermost core, the soul. We can, and Bhagavad Gita teaches us that we can fulfill our soul's longing for love by directing toward Krishna. So that determination, so that deliberation uh, takes us to the determination. So what is it? First step is observation, then introspection, then realization, and then application. And that keeps going. I observe something, I introspect about it, I realize what the right thing is through, obviously, from Krishna helping me, and then I apply it into my life. So deliberation is an important aspect, right? And then obviously the next part is devotion, right? So what we can confirm by our intellectual pursuits through deliberation, devotion confirms that for us, right? When we choose to offer our love to Krishna through bhakti yoga, we start relishing that higher happiness of divine love, right? And then we start comparing, oh my God, what have been all the materialistic things I've been indulging in? They were so, there's nothing, right? So bhakti provides a steady fulfillment that keeps increasing as we grow spiritually. So determination is very much like muscles. It grows when we keep doing uh, deliberation and devotion. It has to be directed and concentrated. So I really like this word Prabhupada uses here. Determine, he can be blessed. So determination is in our hands. Okay. So this is 11 to 30, 11. Yeah, so 11 to 13 are the symptoms. Okay, what are the symptoms of each of the modes? So 11, the manifestations of the mode of goodness can be experienced when all the gates of the body are illuminated by knowledge. So it's an interesting way of putting it. Krishna is becoming poetic here. Gates of the body are illuminated by knowledge. Interesting. So, uh, so here now, what is the psychological condition of the person? Krishna is able to talk about that, right? So there are various doors, right? Gates to the body. Krishna mentioned this in the 5th chapter. Navadware pure dehi neva kurvanna karya. He talked about it. There are 9 gates to this body. Okay? And Prabhupada is mentioning 2 eye, 2 ears, nostrils, mouth, genitals, and the ends. So there are 9 gates to this body. So uh, when there is no illumination, I cannot see anything clearly, right? And when there is no illumination of knowledge, right, then I am able to see better. So what this means that all the gates are illumined. Uh, when in goodness, all the gates are illumined. When there is illumination, person know how to act, right? So senses are like the doors through which our consciousness travels. Okay? So whichever way consciousness goes, there are consequences. When one is able to perceive those consequences, there is light. So that's what it means. Illumination is there. Without illumination, there will always be delusion. Right? So when senses are illumined, one knows how to act and how not to act. Right? So this is a metaphor that Krishna is using, gate of gates, right? So what I'm mentioning is that illumination of it means that uh, when the person knows how to let the senses interact with the world, then the person is said to be in the mode of goodness. So one acts with the senses in a knowledgeable way. Right? So the 5 senses that we have, the acquiring knowledge, sight, taste, smell, sound, and touch, they act through these 9 gates. So when we know how to use these senses properly, all the gates become illumined. That's the way to understand this metaphor of gates of the body are illuminated by knowledge. And desires, they darken the door of the senses. We see wrongly in the darkness. Whereas controlling it in the mode of goodness, it becomes illumined. 12. So that the 11th was about mode of goodness. 12th. So 12th about what are the symptoms in a mode of ignorance? Sorry, passion. For chief of Bharatas, when there is an increase in the mode of passion, the symptoms of great attachment, fruitive activity, intense endeavor, and uncontrollable desire and hankering develop. Uncontrollable desire and hankering. Right? Yeah. So here the person is never satisfied. Violated that. Whereas in the mode of goodness, the person was satisfied, even though that's not the right thing, but it's different. Right? And Krishna is highlighting to Arjun that Arjun, you come from a very pious family. You come from a very great dynasty, and therefore you should resist the pull of the lower modes, right? So behind all this, the things that have been mentioned here, attachment, and there is this unsatisfiable desire. Right? So there's this unsatisfiable desire. If a person becomes greedy because of so a person generally becomes greedy because of the imposition from some outside source. Uh, we are forced to act as we choose to desire. Once we make that choice, then we are forced to act in it. Right? So the moment initially we have that freedom, I can choose, but the moment I choose, I'll be forced to act in that mode. Right? Uh, so I can decide where to place myself, but once I'm in it, then I have to bear the consequences. But the important thing to remember here is these modes are not the deciding factor. Modes don't choose our desires. They're just contributing factors. That, like, for example, there are 3 doors in front of us. Now I can choose which door I want to go through. But once I go through, then I have to bear the consequences of whatever is behind that door. So it doesn't mean that the modes forced me to go through one of those desires. That was still my choice. I was the deciding factor. But then once I decided, then the mode do their job. If somebody is habituated to meat eating because of the way his family asked him to do it, they don't even think about it. So does this person have a choice to eat vegetarian or non-vegetarian food? Yes, but that choice doesn't even come into the framework of their thought. So these persons need an external impetus. That is why all the preaching activities we do are being. That's why we do all those preaching activities, because we know that we have this understanding that what people are doing is not with the right mindset. They are not doing it in a mode of goodness, right? So we are just trying to give them an external impetus, something, a food for thought, right? So because otherwise people will never be able to come out of it. They'll always be going back and forth in there. Okay. There was this, who was that? I was watching this video about, who was this? He was a crypto king. What was his name? Sam? Anybody knows? He recently got jailed for 110 years. Anybody knows his name? Let me see. Sam Bankman. You might have seen this. Let me show you this video. If I can play it. Give me 1 second. Just 1 second. Okay, I'll show you this video. And I'll have to probably share my sound also. Right?
Guilty on all counts. That's the verdict from a federal jury in New York, convicting 31-year-old former billionaire Sam Bankman-Fried, the founder of the now-defunct cryptocurrency exchange FTX, of one of the biggest financial frauds in U.S. history.
It's a warning, this case, to every single fraudster out there who thinks that they're untouchable.
The jury taking only 4 hours to reach their decision. Bankman-Fried, with his head down, appeared overcome with emotion as the verdict was read.
Mr. Bankman-Fried maintains his innocence, and we're going to continue to vigorously fight the charges against him.
Prosecutors say Bankman-Fried took billions of FTX customers' money without their permission and used it to cover losses at his other company, hedge fund Alameda Research, and to fund his lavish lifestyle, which included a $40 million penthouse in the Bahamas, several yachts, and daily lunches that cost up to $2,500 a day. He spoke to our George Stephanopoulos last year.
Are you worried about going to jail?
There are a lot of things that are worrying me right now. I'm trying to focus on what I can do going forward to be helpful.
The trial featured testimony from Bankman-Fried's ex-girlfriend and former business partner who took a plea deal, telling the court he set up the systems and directed her to take customer money to repay loans. Bankman-Fried took the stand, saying more than 140 times that he could not recall events and denying he knew funds were being used improperly. Reacting to the verdict, Attorney General Merrick Garland said it sends a clear message to anyone who tries to hide their crimes behind a shiny new thing they claim no one else is smart enough to understand. The Justice Department will hold you accountable. It's a stunning fall from grace for the young man once celebrated as the golden boy of cryptocurrency, who now faces up to 110 years in prison.
Yeah. So 110 years in prison. And why? Why was it 110 years in prison for him? Exactly what Krishna is talking about in this verse.
Not satisfied, Prabhuji. He wasn't satisfied.
Yeah. That's what exactly Krishna is speaking in Bhagavad Gita. Bhagavad Gita is so relevant for our times, for times to come, and for the past times that have gone back. Every person goes through the exact same challenges. What was he going through? There were uncontrollable desires and hankering. Just imagine, he was eating lunches that were $2,500 a day. He had a $40 million penthouse in the Bahamas. He had so many yachts. So this is all, that's what happens. The desire becomes uncontrollable. The hankering develops. There was another guy, I don't know if you heard of him. His name was Martin Shkreli. He was also somewhere in his early 30s. He became a CEO of a pharmaceutical company. And there was one drug that the pharmaceutical company used to make. It was for some kind of a very rare disease that used to happen to people, I think, who had AIDS, I think. So it was only one drug in the market for a very rare disease. The price was $17 or so per tablet. And he increased the price 750%. So that was, I think, the tablet costed $1,000. And he and the board of directors in that company, they made $64 million, I think, over a period of 30 days or something out of that. And he just used a loophole that's there in the FDA system that he could increase the price. And he was jailed for many years. I think now he's out, but he's barred from coming to the pharmaceutical industry. All that is uncontrollable desires. And when our desires become uncontrollable, our mind justifies them. That's the worst part. I'm right. I'm doing right. All the criminals, all the mafias, in New York, they have those so many mafia groups, Italian mafia groups and so forth. All of the leaders, they think they're right. That's what mode of passion does. So that's how we can identify.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Prabhuji, you made this statement, right? Modes don't choose our desire, right?
Modes don't choose our desires. Yes. Yeah.
Prabhuji, I'm a little confused with that. Like the example just now you came about the Sam, right? Guy did fraud, right? Because of it uncontrolled desire. Obviously, he was not in the mode of goodness. He was always in the mode of passion. So because of his mode of passion, he had this uncontrolled desire, uncontrolled hankering to get more, right? So because of that mode, passion mode, so this mode was governing his uncontrolled desire, right? So this statement, mode don't choose our desire. I'm a little confused here.
Yes, sure. And I also said another statement after that modes are not the contributing, they are contributing factors. I'm not saying they don't play any role. What I'm saying is they are not the deciding factor. Who's the deciding factor? Deciding factor is still the soul. So Sam Bankman still had this choice that he could have avoided using that money of his customers. He had that choice, right? We all have that choice. But he fell prey to that desire, that uncontrollable desire. So it was very much like I was giving those three examples, right? The three doors. Now, Sam Bankman had a choice to go through a door of goodness where he would have been, probably his business was going in loss. He could have shut it down, saying, okay, I don't have the money to run this business, I'll close it. I'm not sure if it's in mode of goodness, but it would have been goodness passion mix or something of that sort. And then in ignorance, what he could have been, he could have just been in a state of anxiety all the time, having sleepless nights. Oh my God, my business is in loss, I don't know what to do, and just like inactive. But in passion, the choice was that he knew that I have millions of dollars of my customers in another business that I have. I'll take that money out and use it. So he always had those three choices. Those choices he was never bereft of those choices. They were always there for him. But once he made the choice, then the mode of nature became the important factor. Till he didn't make that choice, till the soul didn't make that choice, I will go for passion. The mode of nature was still not active in there. The moment he made that decision, that was the point where the mode of passion grasped him and provided him those uncontrollable desires, because that's what he was looking for. That's the choice he voluntarily made. That's what I meant. Okay. So understand those two phrases, right? Contributing factor and deciding factor. So modes do contribute to the outcome. I'm not saying that, but they don't decide the outcome. You still have a choice. But once you take the choice, then the modes take over, and then you cannot do anything. In this life, if I am, you know, very cruel to animals, let's say, you know, after that, so I made that choice. After my life, in the next life, probably I'll be taken to hell, and I will be tortured like those, and then I will have no choice. Right now, I have a choice to go into whichever mode I want. So right now, my choice is the deciding factor.
So, but Prabhuji, the example that you gave, right? I'm cruel to animal, right?
Mhm.
This pravritti is happening to him because he is in a mode of ignorance. That is
Yeah,
why
yeah.
that is why he's cruel. Had I been in the mode of goodness, I would never have the desire to be cruel to animal. That is what I'm saying.
Yes,
Right?
you're right. And that's what Prabhupada says, right? Where was that? When we're talking about determination. Although there are these three, if one is determined, he can be blessed by the mode of goodness. We have to make that choice by determination. We still have that option to make that choice. That's what I'm stressing on.
Okay.
That choice is not lost to us.
Got it.
But once we make that choice, then that becomes your nature, right? Till that time, it was not your nature, right? Till, let's say, I'm not sure if that's the example, right? When you go to play Holi, you're sitting in your house, no color on you. But the moment you make a choice that I'll go out, then there is no control.
Yes.
Then you will be engulfed in the different colors that will be coming. Some friend will have a black color, somebody red, blue, green, whatever it is. Then your choice is lost. But before that, the earliest step, you still had a choice. But that choice is lost the moment I choose which passion, which mode I want to go into. Then it becomes, that it becomes your nature, and then all these qualities come, which Krishna is mentioning, right? See, increase in the mode of passion, and then I get attachment, hankering, and control. Till then, there is no, all these things don't exist until unless I don't increase the mode of passion. Till then, these things don't act upon me. Does that make sense?
Yes, Prabhuji, definitely. And one more question, Prabhuji. So, when we talk about the mode of passion, right, we always talk about these people are workaholic, they are very much hardworking and all that, right? But sometimes, like in the situation where people work, right, they have like very, the type of job that is very demanding and all that. So, and obviously they want to rise in their career ladder and all that, some people, right? So, for them, obviously, they have to work extra, right? So in this situation, okay, the person who is in the mode of goodness, he would not think about rising in the career ladder, or he would not think about working extra, means working a little bit more hard to prove himself. What would be a man in the mode of goodness do in this case? He will just say, okay, I'm very happy in the position that I'm in. I would not try to aspire more, rise in my career, just because then I'll be in the mode of passion. Or means, how do we decide in these situations, right? Obviously, you'll be in the mode of passion because you'll have to work hard, you have to slog because the competition is very high, and then you'll be called a person in the mode of passion just because you are trying to rise in your career. Means how
That's a good point to bring up. Yeah. So see, nowhere in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna encourages renunciation. You have read mostly 14 chapters.
yes.
Krishna even didn't tell Arjun, you give up and I'll go fight for you. No. The message of Bhagavad Gita is about engaging responsibly. Prabhupada's focus was that, okay, if people are workaholic, right? Prabhupada's focus was on the spiritual path. He said, bridge your talent and achieve, bridge between talent and achievement is that commitment. Aiming to do best in material life can be a way to contribute to our devotional outreach also, right? I know so many people, they're businessmen, they're very rich, but they're bringing that as a, so okay, let me say, whenever you are going out and working hard, consider it as that you are doing a fundraising for your home temple. You have devotees there, you have to feed devotees. You have your deities there, you have to take care of the deities. It's like a temple. Your house is also like a temple. So being a workaholic is not a problem. But if you are not having that understanding, what am I working for? If there is no responsible engagement, then it becomes a problem. Right? Working hard is not the problem. But with what mindset am I working hard is the problem. Okay? Prabhupada disciples, when they started the movement, you cannot even imagine that the new Vrindavan that we all go to now, what people had to go through. There was no electricity, no water, no proper toilets there for the devotees. And they were working like animals all the time. I was listening to a class and there was this, I forgot, where did I say it? There was this senior Mataji, a Prabhupada disciple. She was saying that once Prabhupada came to New Vrindavan very early on, and he saw that it was very cold and the devotees didn't have warm clothes to wear. So Prabhupada said to the temple president, please take care of them. And they were doing it, they didn't have proper shoes because they were in the mud and it was so cold and all that. And so Prabhupada said, bring them some warm clothes. And you know what did the temple president bring them? He bought them rubber shoes. So they were working very hard. So is that a mode of passion? No. They had an understanding that I am doing this for Krishna. Then it was no more workaholism. Workaholism, yeah. So the phrase to remember here is engaging responsibly. Have you read that book by His Holiness Giriraj Swami Maharaj? What's that? I'll Build You a Temple. You should read that. Devotees they were mosquitoes, snakes in the Juhu where they were making the temple in Juhu. Now that is a very posh area, but in 1970s it was a jungle. They were all American Prabhupada disciples. They all were suffering from dysentery, malaria, whatever disease you can think of. But they didn't move out from there. So what will you call that? Is it a mode of ignorance that, oh, you're getting disease and still you're not moving out? No, it's not a mode of ignorance. It's a mode of transcendental goodness because they're doing it for Krishna. So that's what I was saying, engaging responsibly. Sorry, I'm not sure if I answered your question or.
Definitely, Thank you so much. But yeah, in this case, like definitely this is for Krishna, of Krishna, and by Krishna, right? In this case, that an example. But the example that I was trying to cite, because there is a sense of guilt in that, because your aspiration is to write a new career graph, right? So obviously at that time you're not thinking, oh, that person is not thinking, oh, he's rising in the career graph because of thinking Krishna at that time. He wants to rise because because he has been working hard and he wants to rise in a career. Everybody wants to aspire that, right? So that time it's more like a mode of passion there and more of guilt there, because if a devotee is spiritual also. So obviously he feels like, oh my God, is this like really dragging myself in the mode of passion? Enough is enough, right? You have to draw a line. But then in the job, you cannot be sitting in a position for long, right? You also want to excel and rise high.
Yeah.
Means how do you get yourself out of this mode of guilt and not feeling that, okay, it's okay. You can think for yourself also sometime when you are in a workplace and you are doing job. So means that is what sometimes it contradicts the thought, right? And people may think, oh, you are in a mode of passion, always engaged, busy doing work. You're a workaholic, and means that is what I'm.
So that's what I'm saying, right? See, there is no harm in seeking a higher position. Competition is not bad. Everything is in the three modes. Competition can also be in the three modes, right? Right? In ignorant mode can be that you want to, whoever is your competitor, you want to destroy that competitor. You want to pull that competitor down, right? But there could also be a constructive competition, right? So what I was highlighting is, if I have an attitude to serve Krishna, then my job is also a part of my service. Right? By being competitive out there, you're bringing the best out of yourself. Right? So, and we can avoid the insecurity you're talking about by having this attitude. Right? Focus on connecting with Krishna. Don't focus on disconnecting with this world or the desires of this world. That's what I was saying. There is no harm in looking for a better position, getting a better job, or excelling in your. Krishna never says that. Krishna is asking Arjun himself, be the best of your job. You're an archer, be the best of an archer. How can Krishna say to us that you don't be a best in whatever you're doing in this material world? But have an attitude to serve Krishna. And you cannot be like, okay, half an hour ago I was serving Krishna because I was thinking about him. Now with the same job, I'm not thinking about Krishna, so it's materialistic again. No, it's Krishna doesn't judge you on a piece by piece basis. Okay, half an hour ago, Shalini was my devotee. Now for the next 15 minutes, she's not my devotee. Again, she's my devotee, now she's thinking about it. Krishna looks at the overall thought process, what you're having. And that's what I'm suggesting you to change. Have that broader attitude to serve Krishna. Then any job you do will be a part of your service.
Got it. Thank you.
And even what you are doing at work, it's not like yeah, obviously we all have materialistic desires. If we were pure, we would have been back home. We would have been Krishna. We are still here because there is still some work. We are work in progress. Okay, so you can have material desire. So don't try to focus on disconnecting with this world. Don't try to remove the negative out of your life unnecessarily. Otherwise, you will end in guilt. You will end in an insecurity. You will end in more becoming more grumpy about life. But if you focus on connecting with Krishna, make that your focus. And you every morning when you pray to Krishna, tell him, Krishna, I'm trying my best to focus on you, but this is my desires here. Like I told you the other day, right? Rajavidya, 2nd chapter. Krishna says, Mahaprabhupada says, telling him everything. Whatever problems you're going through, tell him everything. Krishna, I have a desire to become probably a director, probably a vice president, or probably earn a lot. And this is my desire, Krishna. I'm opening up to you. Now it's up to you whether you want to fix it, whether you want to remove my desire, whether you want to fulfill my desire, or whether you want me to suffer. I leave it all up to you. So that desire also becomes a service to Krishna. And there's more we can talk, but yeah, I think this is more like a summary of what I think of.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Prabhuji, for guiding. Yeah, appreciate it, Prabhu. Thank you.
If I direct my competition to the outside world, I get inferiority complex when somebody's better than me. I get superiority complex when I am better than somebody, right? Don't fall trap to of focusing everything towards the outer world. Forget about that. Always be focusing on connecting with Krishna, and then keep doing whatever you want to do, whatever is coming to you. And Krishna from within your heart will continue to purify you. And that's what we are asking Krishna. And if I was so smart that I could figure out everything myself, what's the use of going to Krishna and doing bhakti yoga and all this? It's just because I'm feeling that stress in my job. I'm feeling the stress in my material life is what is pushing me towards Krishna. And that's the whole purpose of this world, so that we get frustrated and we move towards Krishna. And you're already doing that, so you be happy with that. Okay, there was a hand raised, I saw, and if the question still remains, I would be happy. Who was that? Param Pavani Mataji, was that your hand up?
Yeah, Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Yes, I was about to ask a question that Mataji asked before. In one line, what I understood that we, the soul, we decide which door to choose, and the modes around us contribute to that. But when we choose that door, the consequence, we should be ready to face the consequence. Is that the summary, Prabhuji?
Yes, that's the summary. Yes.
Thank you.
We have a choice which mode we want to interact with. But the moment we touch it, it sucks us in. Then we cannot get out of it. Then we have to suffer the consequence of that.
Gotcha, Prabhuji. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Okay, 13, sorry. So we talked of mode of passion. 14. When there is an increase in the mode of ignorance, O son of Kuru, darkness, inertia, madness, and illusion are manifested. So here, what does a person do? Acts whimsically. Whimsically means without giving a thought. There's no contemplation there. Right? Even though he has the capacity to work, he makes no endeavor. This is called illusion. Although consciousness is going on, life is inactive. And this is what Prabhupada is telling us, right? So, what was that? Yes, so in the verse 11, Krishna said, Sattvam Prakasha. So that he said illumination. Here it's completely opposite. Aprakasha. It's darkness. Right? Prakash was used for goodness. Here Krishna is using aprakasha. Pravatti was the word used for passion. So here the word used is apravritti. Apravritti. So it's completely opposite. Right? So yeah. So the Bhagavad Gita is indicating that insane behavior can come out of mode of ignorance in one's mind. First of all, it bewilders our intelligence. That's what it does first. That becomes aprakasha. And then it also affects our normal behavioral patterns. That becomes apravritti. And then it impels us to act in self-destructive ways. Right? So this mode of ignorance is the lowest and the lowest base. So it represents the complete opposite of our original nature. But the good thing that Krishna is encouraging all of us is, however deep the mode might be for us, it is never irreversible. All of us have the power to revert back to our original pure nature. Yeah. And we have to make conscious choices. I told you about the word deliberate, right? We need to consciously expose ourselves to the right places, like temples, to the right people, like devotees, to the right actions, like chanting. So all these can remove the ignorance and can invoke our dormant spiritual tendencies. The more we expose ourselves to all these, the more our divinity awakens. Okay, so this was up to 13. So 14 to, I'm going to look at the slide. 14 and 15 is the destination at death. That's what now Krishna is going to talk about. When one dies in the mode of goodness, he attains to the pure higher planets of the great sages. Okay. Okay. So when sattva is strong, people dying go to the uttam vidam. That's what Krishna is using the word uttam vidam. Tadottama vidam. Uttam vidam, Prabhupada is translating as of the great sages. So uttam vidya, right? It's uttam vidya. Means that's the highest state of knowledge. So when people die in the mode of goodness, they go to a place where the people are very knowledgeable. It's not necessarily liberation, right? But it's a more in a mode of goodness, you can say. Well, a higher level of goodness. So you can say, oh, is the Swarga Loka in goodness? Yes, it is. Relative to the earth, yes, it is. Right? They are not in devotional service. They are not devotees necessarily, but they are in a mode of goodness for sure. They accept the authority of the Vedas and of Vishnu. So they are, but they don't necessarily accept devotional service or loving service. They are more theistic. But then beyond those, we have Tapa, Jana, Satya, Tapa, Jana, Satya. Other lokas above the Swarga Loka, there the people are even more in the mode of goodness. The life is more focused on austerity, transcendence. So within goodness, there are also levels. That's what I'm saying. Right? Goodness could be close to passion, towards passion, and the goodness could be more towards transcendence. Also, it's a spectrum. So, so the word Swarga Veda, Uttam Veda is also like the Swarga is not Uttam Veda. Sages don't live in Swarga. Swarga is a place of enjoyment. There's so much of pleasure there. So, okay, 14th. So we said, okay, these are the destination at death we're talking about. So 14th we talked about. Now, when one dies in the mode of passion, he takes birth among those engaged in fruitive activities. And one dies in the mode of ignorance, he takes birth in the animal kingdom. This is interesting now. Prabhupada is saying some people have the impression that when the soul reaches the platform of human life, it never goes down again. But that's not true. The people can go down again. So what Prabhupada is talking about is reverse reincarnation. You're going downwards, you're not going upwards. It's called reverse reincarnation. So, and what is that person born in? He's saying Krishna is saying karma sangishu and mudha yonishu. Karma sangishu and mudha yonishu is for ignorant people. So karma sangishu means where people are working very hard, they're engaged in fruitive activities. So that's where the mode of passion goes, right? And then the mudha yonishu is he takes birth in the animal kingdom. So mudha is a fool or a donkey. So in ignorance, one attains animalistic life. Right? So there's karma sangishu and a mudha yonishu. They sound similar, right? But they're different. So yeah, so yeah, so Prabhupada is talking about, as I was saying, reverse reincarnation or reverse transmigration, not reincarnation. So reverse transmigration. People don't know that they can go down also into the cycle, right? And they can go up also in the cycle, as we read. That's the reason why reincarnation was removed from Bible, right? Because when the Roman emperor he took to Christianity, it was a political need. He had to take to Christianity because a lot of people were Christian, and to remain a king and not be overthrown by the growing power of Christians, he just also accepted them. He accepted Christianity. The Roman Empire was already about to collapse, because they were very loose moral grounds. So, but the thing was that the Romans would consider the king as God, right? So as a representative God. But if somebody would come and tell that, oh, you have many lives and you can be a king on the next life also, then they would not take the king seriously. So that is why Christianity, from Bible, they removed the concept of reincarnation. And similarly, the concept of animals, right? Krishna is telling us that ignorant, they move into the animal kingdom. So that means that today I'm a human, tomorrow I can become an animal, right? So when Britishers came to India, they liked the concept of reincarnation and they liked the idea of multiple lives and so forth. But they felt the idea of animal having souls, they felt that it was very repulsive. They thought that how can a soul go the way of dog and hogs? Right? The Old Testament has reference to animal having soul. But then along came a lot of these nonsensical philosophers. Somebody said, oh, animals, humans, plants, they have different kind of souls, right? And human soul is eternal, other souls are not eternal. They are created and destroyed, right? Some have the idea that the soul is created, right? When a man and woman come together, then that is the time when soul is created, right? So all these called kind of bogus, nonsensical illusions, thought processes came into being, right? Materialist people think this is the only life, right? Christians think that there is afterlife for people who believe in Christ. For others, there is hell. Yeah. So all this, why am I referring to all this is because Bhagavad Gita is the only book that gives us a very clear-cut picture of where we are going and how can we define where we are going. But everybody else has this hodgepodge of an idea without a proper understanding. It's only the Bhagavad Gita which clearly says transmigration is based on your free will and is facilitated through the desires of the soul. It's only the Vedic view where it spiritualizes all life forms. It recognizes that all living beings are spiritual. Whereas, Christian view is that only human beings are spiritual, others are not, right? So Christians brought a gap between humans and animals. That's why they're so okay to eating animals. And worse came when Darwin came. He despiritualized even human beings. He said, no, you are coming from monkeys. So you are also, you're not even superior. You are also a useless creature. But Krishna tells us in the 15th chapter, Mamai Vamsho Jiva Loke, Jiva Bhuta Sanatana, Manashashtani Indriyani, Prakriti Sthani Kasha, that you are my part and parcels. I am not, this is below my dignity what I'm living here. Okay. Yes, so we can go anywhere we want according to the mode we select. 16. The result of pious action is pure, and it is said to be in the mode of goodness. 16 to 18 will show the results of the action. Okay, so the word result is here. The result of action is pure and said to be in the mode of goodness. But action done in the mode of passion results in misery. Action performed in the mode of ignorance results in foolishness. Okay, so this is the results of the action. Right? So in the 14th verse, we read that who lives in goodness, they attain auspicious destination. And what is the result of passion? It's dukkha. There is not much of spiritual attraction. Rajoguna, the mode of passion, it's primarily on a bodily platform. It increases the body concept. And this body concept always increases dukkha. In Rajas, one wants more, right? People think there is pleasure in car, iPad, new phone, so and so forth. That's what Prabhupada is saying here. Bhagavad Gita says that in any activity performed in the spell of the mode of passion, there is definitely great misery. There may be a little so-called mental happiness. I have this house or this money, but this is not actual happiness. Yeah, this is not actual happiness. So now Krishna he's giving us this guidance. If you believe in next life, then you have to cultivate certain desires to lead to certain destination. If you are very fanatical, very obsessive, very desireful of something, that's characteristic of a mode of goodness. And from that will come misery. Right? The real happiness comes from improvement of our thoughts. How do we reform our thoughts? That is why Prabhupada gave us these 4 regulative principles: controlling our mind, controlling our thoughts. Right? So, yeah, okay. Okay, from the modes of goodness, real knowledge develops. From the mode of passion, greed develops. And from the mode of ignorance, develop foolishness, madness, and illusion. This is the 17th verse. This is the immediate effect of the modes. Okay, so what's it? Knowledge, greed, and foolishness. Okay. Knowledge comes from being in the mode of goodness. It's not just by studying that you can get knowledge. That is why Prabhupada gave us these 4 principles, because it cannot be that I read Shastras, chant every day, and I do all the nonsense. I can drink alcohol, smoke, and then have illicit relationships, and I'll think I'll improve in my bhakti process. I'll grow spiritually. That will never happen. Right? So the real knowledge is when real knowledge comes from by being in the mode of goodness. So Prabhupada, by intelligently giving us these 4 principles, pushed us in the mode of goodness immediately. That if I'm sincerely following those 4 principles, I will be in a mode of goodness automatically. And then when I study the Shastras, then when I chant, then the effect will be quick. So yeah, learning knowledge is not just taking in facts and figures and memorizing. I can recite so many verses, see how smart I am. No, that's not. There's no use of it if it doesn't improve me spiritually. So if we want knowledge, we have to be in a mode of goodness. Similarly, from mode of passion comes greed. Right? In the mode of passion, we'll always be seeing what we don't have. One is not satisfied with what one has. Just imagine, look at this guy, right? Sam, billionaire, 31-year-old billionaire. He had a full life in front of him. He could have just been happy with that $1 billion he had and be happy with it. No, he wanted something more. So mode of passion made him look at things that he didn't have. A $40 million penthouse in Bahamas. many different yachts. So that's the way passion fools us. And result of ignorance is ajnana. And as we were just talking, right, it doesn't mean devotees cannot have material ambitions. It's not that, right? Or mode of passion is always desiring things. Yeah, devotees can also have material ambitions, but they should not be disproportionate. That there is no time for spiritual life. Devotees don't give up wealth, but they give up the delusion that wealth can make them happy. So, Prabhupada is saying, I think something here, let me see. Thought he said something. Here it is. Okay, he's saying, when one is engaged in the mode of passion, not only he is mentally unhappy, but his profession and occupation are also very troublesome. Why do they become troublesome? So by itself, the profession and occupation is not the problem. The problem is the imbalance. The delusion that the wealth, the position that I'm running after will make me happy. Then the profession and occupation becomes troublesome. But there shouldn't be any imbalance. It should not be like if I am too much passionate about my job, then I have no time for spiritual life. Then there is an imbalance. So there's no problem with material desires. It's just the lack of balance that is the problem. Okay, so 18 is kind of the summary of these results of action. Those situated in the mode of goodness gradually go upward to the higher planets. Those in the mode of passion live on the earthly planets. Those in the abominable mode of ignorance go down to the hellish planet, hellish worlds. Right? So it strengthens the understanding that transmigration is both progressive, going upwards, and can also be regressive, going downwards. And movement can be within species or related to planets, right? What does up refer to, going up? It can be multiple things. It could even mean elevated consciousness. It could mean higher planetary systems, right? Down can refer to lower planets. It can also refer to lower species, right? And Prabhupada says here, this is an important thing Prabhupada says, if I can find it. Oh yes, I like this part. Prabhupada says the result of developing ignorance is very, very risky. Why is it very, very risky? Because we can lose the human body. Beneath the human level, there are 8 million species. And according to the development of the mode of ignorance, people are brought down to these abominable conditions. There's an opportunity for men in the mode of ignorance and passion to be elevated to the mode of goodness. That system is called Krishna consciousness. But one who does not take advantage of this opportunity will certainly continue in the lower modes. I really like how Prabhupada says it's very, very risky because we'll fall down into the animal system, which is more, our consciousness will be very, very constricted. Right now, my consciousness is broad. I can understand, I can observe, introspect, reflect on things. As an animal, I will not be able to do all that. So it's very, very risky. So for one, I don't want to fall down into the animal species. That's a good motivation for us to continue our bhakti. Well, not a motivation, but one point. That's the lowest motivation. But our higher motivation is to love Krishna. Then wherever Krishna wants to put us, we are okay. No problem. Okay, so I think from 19 to the last verse, there are 27 verses here. Okay, the 19 to 27 is about pure life. And that was, I think, what was it? Trap, pure. Yeah, pure life. That was yes, right. So Krishna will give descriptions of the ideal state that ensures a successful human life and afterlife. That's what Krishna is going to talk about in the 19 to 27. I want to start that section next week. I don't want to do it. There might be I might have said, we might have discussed a lot. I don't want to overwhelm everyone. So I'll pause here and see if anybody has any thoughts or comments, questions, anything on their mind.
So the Prabhu, the people who are in the mode of ignorance always fall into the lower planets, right? Or into the lower species. That's what the understanding is.
Mode of passion you're talking about?
Ignorance, ignorance.
Ignorance, yes. So this is right, 8 to read, right?
So Prabhu,
Those
said,
go
right,
down to hellish worlds. Yeah.
transmigration of soul depends upon the karma and the unfulfilled desire. Right? Yam yam vyapi swaram bhavata jate ante kalibram. So that factor is there, we heard, right? That is how you get the species or the body. So that factor is the unfulfilled desire and the karma. And now we are saying another factor that determines which body you will get in next birth is based on your mode.
But those unfulfilled desires are the outcome of the mode. No? Symptom of for example, the symptom of passion we read in the 12th verse was unlimited desires. Similarly, in ignorance, there was madness, inertia was there, darkness was talked about, aprakasha. Darkness means you have no knowledge, you're completely acting whimsically. You are delusional, you have no clarity as such. So that is the symptom of the mode of ignorance. So I'm not sure why are you separating the symptoms and saying that symptoms are separate and the mode is separate. Did you get my point?
Yes, Prabhu, I got it. Yes, yeah. The word desire you have, yes, absolutely. And desires are governed by the mode. Yes, Prabhu, got it.
Yeah.
Makes sense. Thank you so much, Prabhu. Yes.
Yeah. So people who are in a mode of, let's say, darkness, what does darkness, aprakasha, when Krishna says? It means they have no knowledge of what is right and wrong. They are killing, like Prabhupada, when many times Prabhupada would give lectures and he would say, oh, you'll become an animal in your next life if you don't do spiritual practice. And people in the crowd would get up and say, oh, what's the harm in becoming a dog in the next life? I'm happy to be. Prabhupada would say, okay, go become a dog then. What can a spiritual person do? I'm here to help you. Prabhupada would say, I'm here to help you, and you like fools are not even listening to me. So they are in darkness. That's uppercut. There is no such, and they will become animals in the next life.
Yeah.
So that's the effect of that's the symptom of the mode of ignorance. And similarly, because of that symptom, their destination at death will be defined, which is 14th and 15th verse we read.
Yeah.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
I have a question also. I mean, there is a situation, that a person physically does something wrong, maybe killing a person. And then there is a person who is mentally thinking about a person killing that person. And then there is another person who thinks he wants to kill someone, but he immediately checks that's not right. So how would you grade these three people? What kind of mode they are in?
So you said three things. One, who actually acts on his behavior, right? Who acts on his desire of killing. Yeah. That's the first one.
Yeah.
Right. So one thing I mentioned this in one of our discussions, right? In Kali Yuga, we don't get any karma for thinking. That was and I think it was in the first canto itself, right? That verse was there. Give me 1 second. I'll pull up that verse if I can remember the number correctly. First canto is the last 18th chapter.
Yeah, 118.7. Yeah.
118.7? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, okay, 118.7. Let me share this quickly. Okay, so I think this is first canto, chapter 18, verse number 7. Here, I think this is Narad Muni speaking. I'm not sure, we can check, but so Maharaj Parikshit was a realist, like the bees who only accept the essence of a flower. He knew perfectly well that in this age of Kali, auspicious things produce good effects immediately, whereas inauspicious acts must be actually performed to render effects. And Prabhupada highlights this in there that Yes, here. By the will of the Lord, a living being does not become a victim of a sinful act until the act is actually performed in Kali Yuga. So to answer your question, the person who is doing it, obviously he's going to suffer the karma for it. But the middle one you talked about, who's just thinking of doing it but is not doing it. He or she doesn't accumulate any karma. And then there is one person who thought it and then immediately checked it. That person is in the mode of goodness.
Okay.
Right?
So the middle one we will call in mode of passion, who's thinking.
You can call him in the border of goodness and passion, Mataji, because he's not yet accumulating any karma. He's still thinking. But if he keeps on thinking, one day he's surely going to do it.
Okay.
Right? Because in which verse was that? Krishna says, right, in Sangha sanjayate kaman, kaman krodho vijayate, krodho bhavati sammoham, sammoham bhrashta vijay. What is this? 269. I'll show you that. So it's a thought process. If you keep thinking about something, the thought will keep solidifying, and a point will come when you will actually do it.
Yes.
Right. So the second one is more, I would say, towards the middle of somewhere between there.
Yeah. Okay. So, and the first one definitely who's killing is in mode of ignorance, right?
Yeah, he's in mode of ignorance. And the first person you said who's thinking but immediately stops it.
Yeah.
That person is in a mode of goodness.
Okay. So that means that when any bad thought comes to our mind, we should immediately check it and curb it so that we remain in mode of goodness only, right?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, thank you so much. Yeah, that very good thing to clarify, because sometime out of these three modes, thoughts may come and go, and if we check them, then definitely we will be progressing towards the mode of goodness. So thank you for clarifying that.
And it's not like senior devotees or self-realized souls, they don't get these thoughts, but they have such a strong control over their mind, and their love for Krishna is such a high priority for them. All these thoughts are just set aside. Well, forget that. They are not even considered for a fraction of a second. It's not like they don't get these desires. As long as we are in this material world, these things keep bombarding us. But those pure devotees have learned to control it.
Yeah.
That's the beauty.
Great. Thank you.
And also one more thing I wanted to highlight, Madhuri, you brought up a good point. We as devotees don't try to focus excessively on controlling these modes. Yes, I control them. I try my best. But I don't get overwhelmed or morose or gloomy just because I'm not able to control them. Because Krishna himself says, right, that mam maya duratte. This maya is mine, right? But ye bhajanti tu mam, that if you become my devotee, then you'll be able to overcome it. So our focus should always be on becoming a devotee of Krishna and not necessarily overly being concerned about overcoming these modes.
Yeah, because sometimes you feel like that, this thought has come and that thought has come. It's not good that you are dedicating your life to Krishna and then these should come to you. So you get overwhelmed sometimes. Yes, that is real.
So whenever it overwhelms you, remind this verse 7:14. Daivi Hesha Gunamai Mam Maya Duratte. This is a divine energy of mine. How can I overcome Krishna's divine energy? Just imagine, Mataji. I cannot. But I only can overcome it when I surrender to Krishna. Then Krishna takes care of everything.
Yes.
Then it becomes like as they say, the material world becomes like a Vatsa Padam Param Padam Yat Vibdam Natesham. Bhagavatam says, Vatsa Padam. The water in the hoof print of a calf. That's the material ocean for us then, when we surrender to Krishna.
Yeah.
That's a good point you bring out, Mati.
Thank you. Thank you so much for clarifying. That was a very good clarification, really. Much needed, I would say.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Anything else on anyone's mind? We'll wrap up this chapter in the next session. Nothing? Okay. Okay.